Location, location, location. You know, it's the oldest cliche in the real estate book, isn't it?
It's the one everyone knows, the golden rule.
Exactly. And you hear it, you immediately think of, I don't know, a cafe on a busy street corner or a house in that one perfect school district. It's all about being seen.
Visibility, curb appeal, all that stuff.
But today, we're taking a hard left turn from that. We're tossing that whole narrative out. We're getting into the heavy-hitting world of industrial site selection. And let me tell you, when you're deciding where to put a massive factory location it's so much more than just curb appeal.
Oh, it's a completely different beast. It's a high-stakes puzzle that can make or break a company before a single brick is laid.
I was reading through our source material for this deep dive. It comes from the industrial design firm Beston, their insights on the 7 factors to be considered. And I was just, honestly, I was shocked. You think you just buy a big field and, build a big shed? How hard could it be?
That's the big field fallacy, and it's where so many companies just lose millions.
Right. So before we get into the weeds, or I guess the dirt in this case, what's the real mission here? Why does Beston call this a necessary process and not just, a purchase?
Well, the goal is to understand that site selection is actually the first step of design. It's not a transaction. Beston calls it holistic industrial design.
Holistic industrial design, I like that.
It impacts everything, the factory layout, daily production, everything's all about data, analysis, and realizing that the land itself is a raw material in your business plan.
It's amazing how many invisible variables go into just buying a piece of land.
And our mission today is to connect those dots, to see how the soil under your feet connects to the profit you make 5 years down the line.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've got 7 hidden factors to get through. Let's start with what feels like the most obvious one, accessibility and infrastructure.
Right. Factor number 1, the logistics of existence, you could call it.
The source material calls it location accessibility. My first thought is, just check Google Maps. Is there a highway exit? If there's a road, we're good to go, right?
A road is the bare minimum. But, the source breaks it down for 3 completely distinct groups that need that access.
Okay.
First, you've got the workforce. Can the people who actually run the machines get to work without it being a total nightmare?
That's huge. You find cheap land in the middle of nowhere, but if no one can get there, you've just built a very expensive, very empty building.
Exactly. You'll have turnover problems before you even open. Then, the second group, raw materials. Can the big trucks get in easily? And third, can the finished goods get out?
So it's a flow problem. It's not just, is there a road? It's, can a 40-foot truck actually make the turn into the gate?
Without blocking traffic for 10 minutes, yeah. It's a logistical ecosystem.
And there was a part in the text that stood out to me. It said customers and suppliers prefer accessible places. That's more of a relationship thing.
It is. It's a relationship factor. Think about it. A supplier might have to make just-in-time deliveries. If your factory is a nightmare to get to, with potholed roads that wreck their axles,
they're going to start charging you more, or just drop you.
For sure. And what about a client coming to do an audit? If they have to drive 3 hours into the wilderness to see you, they arrive in a bad mood. Accessibility is about being easy to do business with.
That's a great point. It's about reducing friction in every sense. Okay, so we can get to this out. Now, are we actually allowed to be there? This brings us to factor 2. Zonal classification.
The legal reality check, or as Beston puts it, the statutory norms.
This feels like the part where dreams go to die.
It often is. This is a classic amateur mistake. You see cheap land, the seller says it's for industrial use, and you sign on the dotted line. But the source is really clear here. The product you make dictates where you are allowed to exist.
So not all factories are created equal.
Not in the eyes of the law, no. If you're, say, assembling smartphones, that's pretty clean. But what if you're making industrial chemicals? Or anything that produces fumes?
The neighbors won't be happy.
And the local government won't be either. The norms often prohibit polluting industries from being near residential areas. They need a buffer zone. It's a hard stop. You have to check the zoning before you even think about the price.
And I guess there's a future risk too, right? What if the town grows out towards your factory?
That is the nightmare scenario. You're fine for 5 years, then a new subdivision pops up next door. Suddenly you've got noise complaints, legal battles, and you're not going to win.
The homeowners win. Every time.
Every time. So it's not just reading the map today, it's predicting where the map is going.
Okay, let's unpack the actual ground we're standing on. Zoning is good, roads are good. Now what?
Now we look down at factor number 3, site cleaning and clearing.
This one surprised me. I mean, it's dirt. You get a bulldozer, you scrape it flat, done. Why is this a major factor?
Because scraping it creates debris, and debris is a liability. You have to look at the current situation of the site. Is it just grass? Or are there rocks, old foundations, who knows what buried under there?
And once it's scraped, you have a giant pile of stuff.
And there's the trap. The source specifically says to look for local restrictions on the disposal of material.
Oh, wow. So you could dig up a mountain of rocks and the local government could say, nope, you can't dump that here.
Exactly. So now you're not just bulldozing, you're trucking tons of debris 3 towns over to a special landfill. That just blew a hole in your budget before you've even started building.
That's a hidden tax on the land. Wild. Okay, sticking with the ground. Let's go deeper. Literally. Factor 4, topo and geotechnical survey.
This is where it gets really technical, but honestly, this is where you can save or lose a fortune.
Lay it on us.
So 2 parts. First, the topographic survey. That just looks at the contours. Is the land flat or is it hilly?
And if it's hilly, you've got to move a lot of earth to flatten it.
Which is incredibly expensive. Excavation, filling, compacting. It all adds up. Buying a
No.
cheap hilly plot can end up costing more than a pricey flat one.
Okay, that's the topo part. What about geotechnical?
That's the soil test. This is absolutely vital. The soil conditions determine the type of foundation you need for the building.
And if you skip that test, what happens?
Well, best case, you overspend on the foundation just to be safe. Worst case, your factory starts to sink unevenly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, one corner sinks faster than another, your floors crack. And in a factory with precision robots calibrated to the micron, a shifting floor means your products are now defective.
So you're not just buying land, you're buying stability.
Precisely. If the soil is bad, you might need to drive deep pilings, 50 feet into the ground just to find something solid to stand on. It's a cost you have to know before you buy.
So we've checked the roads, the laws, the junk on the surface, and the dirt underneath. The shell of the factory seems possible. Now we need to plug it in. Let's talk lifelines. Power and water supply?
The heartbeat of the factory.
Right. With power, the source talks about the supply company and the substation, but then it uses a very specific phrase, stability of voltage.
This is huge. In your house, if the lights dim for a second, it's annoying. In a factory, a voltage dip or a spike can be catastrophic.
Why so much worse?
The equipment. Sensitive, high-tech machinery can get its control boards completely fried. Or imagine you're melting plastic. Power cuts out for 10 seconds.
The plastic hardens inside the machine.
And you now own a multi-million-dollar paperweight. You need to know if the grid is reliable. Is it clean power?
Terrifying. So you check the substation's history. Okay, what about water?
It starts with a simple calculation, how much you need for your process. But then there's the forgotten variable, fire service.
You mean for the sprinkler?
For the sprinklers, for the hydrants, yeah. And the volume you need for that can be massive if the local water main can't supply enough pressure to put out a fire.
The fire marshal won't let you open.
You've got it. So what do? You have to build your own giant water tank, a reservoir, on your land. It's another hidden cost if the public infrastructure isn't there.
Wow. Okay, so water comes in, but it also has to go out. Which brings us to sewage and effluent discharge, the flush factor.
In industry, it's more about the drain. What happens when you empty the chemical tanks?
You can't just dump it in the river.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And treating industrial waste is complex and expensive. This is where the source brings up a really smart strategic point. The advantage of pre-established industrial areas.
What's the advantage there?
Shared infrastructure. Specifically, a common effluent treatment plant, a CETP.
A shared treatment plant for the whole industrial park.
Exactly. You just pipe your waste to them. This does 2 things. 1, it's better for the environment, but 2, and this is the big business win, you don't have to build and manage your own treatment plant.
Which sounds incredibly expensive.
And complicated. It's a whole separate business you don't want to be in. So finding a site with a CETP is a massive efficiency hack. It lets you focus on what you're actually good at.
Okay, one last technical factor before we get to the money. Number 7, CNG, LPG, and fuel oil supply.
Right. Fueling the operation.
The source says for many industries, a piped supply of gas is a necessity, not a luxury.
Think about any industry that uses a lot of heat. Ceramics, food processing, metalworking. They need constant, dependable fuel.
And piped is the key word because the alternative is getting trucks to deliver it.
Right. Which is a logistical headache and a safety risk. What if a truck breaks down? Or there's a snowstorm? Your production just stops. A pipe is continuous, it's on tap, safer, cheaper, and way more reliable.
It all connects back to that total design idea. You align the site you choose with the process you need.
You don't force the process to fit a bad site.
Okay, so we've vetted the land, the law, the grid, the pipes. But at some point, someone has to write a check. The source zooms out at the end to cover what it calls commercial factors.
Yeah, the economics, the engineering can be perfect, but the numbers still have to work.
The source lists the obvious one, cost of land, but also incentives provided by the state.
It's basically competition.
Yeah.
Different states or counties will compete for big industrial projects because they bring jobs and tax revenue. They might offer tax holidays or subsidize electricity.
And those incentives can be pretty significant.
Oh yeah, on a big project, we're talking millions of dollars. It can be the deciding factor,
But you have to balance that against the ease of doing business, right?
which is all about the bureaucracy.
Right.
How fast can you get a building permit? Is the local government helpful, or are they going to fight you every step of the way?
So you might get a great tax break, but it takes you 3 years just to get permission to build.
Exactly. And time is money. These soft factors translate directly into hard dollars on the balance sheet.
It's so complex. The source wraps this up saying proper site selection needs suitable tools for knowledge management. It calls it a complex, multifaceted scenario.
I think that's the perfect summary. It's not a checklist, it's a web. You might find a site with great soil but terrible roads, or amazing power but really strict zoning laws. You have to optimize.
And you can't optimize without data.
Exactly. This isn't something you do on a hunch.
So let's bring this all home. We started out joking about location, 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 but after this deep dive, that phrase just feels so inadequate.
It's way too simple. Location is a dot on a map. What we've been talking about is an entire ecosystem. We've gone from the turning radius of a truck to the load-bearing capacity of soil, from voltage stability to shared sewage plants.
We even talked about whether you're allowed to throw away the dirt you dig up.
Right. It really proves that total design concept, site selection, isn't a purchase. It is the very first act of engineering for the whole business.
And for you listening, even if you're not building a factory, there's a lesson here. Whether you're renting an office or buying a house, looking at the infrastructure of existence is always the smart move. Don't just look at the paint, look at the pipes.
Knowledge is most valuable when you apply it early. And in this case, applying it before you sign the deed is the only way to go. Once you sign, all those problems become your problems.
It's about seeing the invisible variables before they become very visible costs.
Exactly. And I want to leave you with a final thought on that. We talked about how this whole process requires predicting the future water needs, future zoning changes.
Right, predicting the future of that specific spot.
So if you think about it, how much of a business's failure is actually determined before the first shovel even hits the ground? How many companies failed, not because their product was bad, but simply because, 5 years earlier, they bought the wrong patch of dirt?
That's a heavy thought, that the fate of a company could be written in the soil itself.
It just might be.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Until next time, keep